Are you frustrated by all of the conflicting B2B growth advice and still not seeing results? Well, over the last 5 years, my company has set up and launched over 200 marketing campaigns for B2B, and I have found that just one strategy matters most right now. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what that strategy is, how to implement it easily, and what results you can expect to see. Now, this strategy only has 2 steps. So here's the first thing you need to know if you want to grow. Now, did you know that 75% of B2B buyers prefer not having to speak to a sales rep during the buying process, but counterintuitively, you are 1.8 times more likely to buy something if you do interact one-on-one with a rep. The thing is, this percentage has massively increased over the last couple of years, but most people haven't caught up in that shift in buyer behavior. But why is that happening? Well, let's take our tubular time machine back to 1999. We're doing this again. Now, as you can see here, our B2B buyer has his skateboard and his cap on backwards, which signifies we are indeed definitely in the 90s and we have definitely traveled back in time. Now, Rad 1999 John wants to buy some software to help him manage his payroll. Cool. But he doesn't have a clue where to start. So he asks around, gets some recommendations, but to get more information, he needs to book a call with a sales rep who can come to his business and show him the software, plus answer any questions so that he can learn how it works. It just makes sense. Now, let's take the time machine back to the present day and just forget about the fact that I own a time machine. Definitely do not tell the government about that one. Now, this modern John, he's nowhere near as rad. Modern day John also needs software for managing his payroll. But do you know what he does? He just goes online and starts looking for solutions. Within minutes, he can see comparison websites, review websites, and video demos of different solutions on YouTube. And he can ask ChatGPT if the software he's considering integrates with his current tech stack. So he doesn't even need to speak to a sales rep for the majority of the interaction because he can get the information he previously could only get from them within minutes. This is the shift, and it's only accelerated since COVID, especially with the introduction of AI. So now I'm going to show you how we can take this shift in buyer behaviors and use it to your advantage. Firstly, you want to create a list of all of the problems your target audience has that you help resolve. Now, you want to create ungated content that helps them start to resolve those problems. So, as an example, let's imagine I run a website agency. One of the problems people have is that their current website doesn't actually convert anyone into paying clients. Now, the optimum approach here used to be blogs, but it's now shifted and video is now king. So I can create a video on YouTube about how to choose the right design of your website to increase conversions. I can then replicate that content on social media as individual posts and on my website's blog. I can also use it as a webinar. I can make it into a white paper that I give away for free. I can even run ads that just push people towards this content. And the more helpful and succinct this content is, the more likely AI is going to pick it up and start suggesting it when users are using it for research. This gets people with the problem I resolve into the top of my funnel. We basically want to achieve helpfulness through our content. Now, in all of this content, if you have a sales call led process, you want to start to promote the actual sales call, but it needs to be framed as something that is going to benefit the prospect, like a free workshop, a strategy call, or an audit. If you do this, then what will happen is that not only will ironically you'll get more sales calls, but people will show up to those calls with all the information they need, meaning your lead quality and your close rate just go through the roof. This is the shift. Skepticism is at an all-time high and trust is at an all-time low, and the power has shifted to the buyer. But there are 2 steps to our B2B growth strategy. This first one gets you attention, but you need the second to bring it home and actually convert help into paying clients. Now, years ago, I met a guy called Josh on a project that I was working on. Now, he spotted I had a Razer gaming laptop, and being a fellow gamer, he suggested that we play some games together. Now, I did not know this guy, and he informed me that he had a habit of being banned from games, which is not my style because I'm a good boy. So I said, yeah, sure. But inside I was thinking, I don't want a new friend. I'm just going to ignore this guy. Anyway, he adds me on social media, so I start seeing him posting stories about him playing games. And whenever I interacted with him to talk about the project I was working on, he'd just ask again, oh, we you'd still need to play games. And this process repeated, with me politely making excuses every single time. But then one day, about a month after our first meeting, I was feeling a bit more warm to him because I'd just seen him around so much. Now I was explaining how I was really struggling with this game, and the game was Overwatch, in case you're interested. Anyway, turns out he's just really, really good at Overwatch. So he just says, oh, I'll help you out. Now this is genuinely like the 10th time he'd asked me to play games, and I needed the help. So despite me thinking, oh, this guy's a bad egg who gets banned from games and I don't want a new friend, I logged on and I played with him. Now, if we fast forward 6 years, I spent Christmases with him, we've been on holiday a few times, and I'm going to be the best man at his wedding. Now, why the fuck is any of this relevant to the only B2B growth strategy that we need? Well, his persistence broke me through that skeptical barrier I had, and you know what? I'm genuinely grateful. So now I'm going to show you how you can emulate this to get more clients with my patented always be there Josh's friend method, TM. I don't know what TM even means, but people put it at the end of stuff. So in step 1, we make sure we have methods for getting prospects into the top of our funnel with useful content. But in step 2, we want to take that initial interest and information gathering and turn it into tangible one-on-one interaction. Remember, 75% of buyers prefer not speaking to a sales rep, but you are 1.8 times more likely to close if you do. So what we need to do is set up pots of prospects. Now there are a few ways you can do this, but the most effective are collecting emails for mailing lists, using LinkedIn insight tags or native audiences to create audiences of people who visited your website or interacted with your helpful content, or using Meta in the same way to build audiences. Next, you want to collate transcripts of any sales calls and any emails you get from the prospects during the sales process. Run this through ChatGPT in agent mode and ask it to find all of the questions people ask. Rank them in order of the most asked to the least asked, and ideally get it to tell you the answers you gave to these questions. Now you want to turn every one of these questions into a piece of content, and video is ideal. Now you want to set up remarketing campaigns on LinkedIn and Meta using those audiences I just told you to build. This is a very low cost type of campaign that consistently gets delivered to people who've shown interest in your solution over an extended period of time. Your content basically just does a Josh and just keeps on showing up. It's still friendly, it's helpful, it's not pushy, it's just present. And over time, it just builds familiarity and trust. Now, in this content, you want to promote getting someone on a call, but you want it to be framed as a method of helping the prospect. Remember what Josh did? He got me finally to play by saying he'd help me with something I was struggling with for months. Also, a direct ask goes a really long way here. Thankfully, you can automate this with LinkedIn ads. There is an ad type called conversation ads. You can set up an audience of people who have interacted with your remarketing content and run direct message conversation ads to them, which invite them to this call. And you can use this template I'm putting on screen. Now, if you want additional training around this, or you just want help setting all of this up for you, there is a link in the description below for extra help. Now, all this is very effective, but if you offer the wrong type of content or the wrong type of call, annoyingly, it still won't work. So in this next bonus point, I have a free tool that's going to ensure you nail this growth strategy first time. Now, we have set up and run ad campaigns on LinkedIn for well over 100 clients. We've managed millions in ad spend, but recently we launched a campaign for a client using the same tried and tested system we rolled out over and over again, but it just would not work. And trust me, I take client results very personally. This also baffled me, as literally the week before, we'd helped an operations agency set up an ad campaign, an email campaign that generated 5 sales calls in 1 week. So we went into overdrive mode trying to figure out what was going wrong. I was at the end of a week of client and internal meetings, just going round and round on the issue, and I was driving home really late at night from a gig I'd been to. And that is when the penny finally dropped. You see, the campaign we were having issues with was an enterprise SaaS solution. It was targeting CXO level executives at companies that spanned multiple countries and had so many layers of decision makers. Whereas the other success story we'd just seen was focused on B2B founders of smaller, more nimble companies. It was basically the context. The principles of our growth strategy, they remain the same. Helpfulness through content and always being there. But the type of content you need to push out needs to be very heavily tailored to your exact situation. So I'm going to show you how you can figure this out within about 3 minutes so you don't waste years trying to figure it out on your own. You see, once the penny dropped, I got home from that gig and I started building a system. I realized that the things that affect context are your company type, your product complexity, the buyer's awareness, how many decision makers are involved, and the buyer role. If you can categorize these and run them through a matrix, it will tell you exactly what type of content you need to create for your exact situation. The good news is that I made a custom GPT that will do all of this for you, and I'm going to give you access to it entirely for free. Now, this is normally part of our B2B client acquisition system, which is called the Controlled Growth Framework. Ideally, you want to upload a marketing strategy document, which we build with you, but you can just tell it as much information about your business and your buyers. So if you find it useful and you want more help, we're offering free growth workshops to select B2B founders. If you want to apply, there's a link for that in the description below. Now, this is the only foundational strategy you need, but there is a lot of other stuff that you need lined up, like your offer, how to set up the ads, how to write effective content, how to nurture and close leads, because if you don't get those right, the system still won't work properly. Thankfully, I have put together a video going through in detail our complete end-to-end client acquisition system that will help you clarify your messaging, build a sales call engine, and build trust and convert leads on autopilot. You can see the full training of that system right now here for free.